I'm sorry, we had to go to a part two, guys, on this. It just got to be too much, and then trying to do the editing that I do in this portion of it made the videos just far too long. I try not to have them over about 45 minutes, and in fact, it's got a deal on it that it's supposed to notify me if I get close to it, so I don't push over it, and try to get under 45 because whenever I release them, if I'm going to do a live release, I got to do them 15-minute increments. You have found that I won't be able to shut up, and I've gone to 51 minutes before, and then we have to wait for 12 minutes for a new video to come out, things like that. But let's continue with this lie that he's got going on. The Aboriginal Caucasians of North Africa that he's trying to say were Negroids.
A particular place. Or you could say the Aboriginal people, which would mean the first inhabitants of a place or region.
Right.
You first need to understand that the original features of Africa were black.
No. The original features of sub-Saharan Africa were black. The original features of northern Africa, which is still seen today with this little girl here, through Egypt, which has been proven again, but didn't have to be, but blacks, whoa, they covet. They want to talk about someplace they never knew existed and say that they had a part in it. The only people that were black that were around there were the Nubians. They considered them to be troglodytes, and they weren't even allowed into Egypt. There are many decrees that show you that they aren't even allowed in Egypt. Whenever they show you in the tombs that they're coming and bringing gifts, that would have been to Icon and the trading post, that they weren't even, no, they didn't walk right up to the king. Hell no, they didn't allow them into the city. But, oh, that sounds so apartheid and racist. Well, that's just exactly what it was. And I believe it was because of the own actions of the black people. Yeah, that's the same reason that South Africa got done. There was large problems whenever those people tried to keep coming in, so they put a fence up. Lord knows why that changed, but let's continue.
I've explained why and how the non-black North Africans came to be in Africa, and this is proven by their haplogroup, DNA, and historical migration patterns.
Yes, it's proven that they were the endemics by the haplogroup, the reintegration of it, the multiple Caucasian reintegration back into North Africa that is shown, and no Negroid composition until much later, and that's due to slave trade.
Around 1300 BC, so over 3,000 years ago, a small amount of white people were described in Libya. But according to Sheikh Ant...
Now, he's going to try to show Sheikh Anta Diop. Sheikh Anta Diop has been debunked 100%. He's a Negrocentric, and he tried to say the Senegalese that are as dark as him were the Egyptians. He himself is an admixed man. Black people don't grow facial hair very much on their own. Most of that's all admixed too. So whenever you see yourself growing beards, by the way, that has to do with Berbers too. Berber and the word barber or hair cutter have to do with beards. The reason the Greeks called a lot of these people barbaric is because A, they wouldn't pick up and speak Greek, and B, they had beards, whereas they kept themselves shaved quite frequently. Also, the Egyptians kept themselves shaved. The Sumerians kept themselves shaved. So they're saying, oh, those people are non-barbaric, but wow, these are Barbary. And the Barbary Coast pirates, and they had the beard and everything. And you don't think that's true, but then you look at Barbarossa. What is that? Barbarossa. Rosa's red. Redbeard. Redbeard himself is a Berber. Barbarossa, Barbary pirate. And the Barbary pirate slave trade had to do with whites. Yeah, had to do with Caucasians. So, yeah, they were enslaved too lots of times. In fact, I already mentioned that the Irish were the first slaves in America, but let's continue.
The Diop, a Senegalese historian, around 1200 BC, under the rule of Ramses III, a large population of Eurasian invaders were pushed back from Egypt into Libya. At that time in Libya, there was a group of people known as the Tenahus or the Libus, who were black people living in Libya.
No, they weren't. There were no black people in North Africa whatsoever. They're trying to put a claim to a people that nowhere live near there now and then back again. When you talk about Mali, Mali was started by Queen Tinhanan, an ancient Caucasian Berber. Yeah, and over 800 years later, then we had the black people start coming in, and again, because of the slave trade and type situation. Yeah. And so, what is that? Lie number 17. Let's continue.
These are the ancestors of the Libus in Senegal today. We have Carthage, which is modern-day Tunisia, which was described by the Romans and Greeks as being a nation of black people.
No, it never was. God, how disgusting. Carthage was started up by the Phoenicians themselves. The Phoenicians are known to have a large redhead component in their thing too. Foan or fawn, the color fawn is a reddish type color too, and it goes with it. These are Caucasians, and the Phoenicians are all up around the border near Syria and around. And the weird confusion there too is the Canaanites and so on, and the Phoenicians, and where were they? Well, they talked about them having multiple colonies all around the Mediterranean of the Phoenicians, and over in Carthage and Tunisia and all those places, right? And they had ones up in northern Europe too that they had. And those were all Caucasians, and it's disgusting that he tries to pull off some BS like he's doing right now. For whenever you even look at the tomb paintings of the ancient Libyans, of the Egyptians, they show these people even paler than them, and quite often they have tattoos on them. The earliest found Egyptian or pre-Egyptian dynastic mummy is in the British Museum. It's called Ginger. It's a pale leucoderm, meaning he's a pale man with lighter features such as his hair. The reason they call him Ginger is it's kind of a reddish blonde hair and curly, kind of like the Greeks. And you can't get around that, or the fact that they had blue eyes in all the statues in the very first and earliest dynasties. And then that seems to have left them. And it wasn't that the blue eyes left them at all, but they quit making these crystals. Perhaps they lost the technique in some way. And a lot of people have used that and the bowls that are found in that area and saying that there was a very advanced people here at one time. And Egypt, when it went through its troubles, became a little bit less advanced than they were in the ancient times. It seemed like they took a step down because of everything happening there too, but that was of course Caucasian Egyptians.
When the Romans took the Maghreb region after their war against Hannibal, they found so many black people in Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. They called these people Moors and called...
No, and the Moors are Caucasians, and there's no hope to get out of that. Here, let's see if I can't. Let me type in. Neptunes Lagoon, Moors, mine. Oop, didn't spell it right. Now this one that's in the background right here, it's African spiritualism, and it's actually showing you these black people, very primitive still, that haven't been helped out very much by the Caucasians in what state they would be in a non-colonized environment. So let's just see if I can find, Caucasian Berbers and a major Moor or whatever, faces of the past. Moors, they were an Islamic people, who occupied the Iberian Peninsula after they took over North Africa and Southwest Europe, mainly Spain and Portugal, between 711 and 1192, then getting kicked out, and hailing from North Africa, primarily Morocco, hence the name Moor. Let's see if I can show the pictures of, oh man, no, this is just the Amazi and the pictures of them. Let's go back and let's see if I can't find the other two, because that was just people that are there now and showing you the idea of the admix. Wow. I'm going to go to I have to go to my site. See, my own videos won't show up. They try to block me because I tell truth and blacks don't like it. And so, you know, the new modern cuckling here in America. Oh, you can't say that. Yeah, of free speech? Let's just type in Moors and see what I get up here. 1, 2, African slave trade and encounter the Moors. Moors. Yep, those are all my pictures of them there. And there was one about Barbie Coast Pirates just down at the bottom. Who were the Moors and what did they look like? Hispania. Yeah, see, that's where Hispanic comes from. And you try to get black people to believe this crap, you know? So, let's see what these Moors look like. That's a Caucasian. Oh, that's a Caucasian. Probably have to block that music or it's gonna kick it. Ironically, some of the free music that they chose from YouTube, now they have blocked, and they've actually blocked 3 of my videos off of music that I have in videos that they themselves had in their free library. Disgusting, isn't it? La Alhambra, all. Why is everything named all and all? Oh, that's because of Allah. It has nothing to do with Negroids. Yep. And this building technique, Negroids never built like that. Of course not. Let's see why Spaniards see them in the way they do. At worst, they called them swarthy, and they did call them dark-skinned because they were darker skinned than themselves, a tanned people. So, Santa Maria collection. These are the books of the Moors themselves. And what do they look like? I I I see blonde and red-haired, blonde haired. I see Caucasians and very pale, and these are the Moors drawing pictures of themselves in their literature and book. Yeah, and the Moors and the Caucasian Moors now. Oh no, now there's a Negro, it looks like, right there. What is that? If you look into the story, he's trying to sell them this Negro. So this is whenever this is all going on. But are Negroes the Moors? No. In fact, this guy was a castrated eunuch. And the rest of the people in the boat are Caucasians, and they're Caucasians, and they're Caucasians here. Ooh, and they have horses, and there's Caucasians in the castle, and Caucasians on the horses. These are your Moors. And so, ironically, if you look at it, it shows you that the ancient Arabic people at one time looked a little bit different too. The first Moors that came in were endemic type of Amazish people that were in lieu with the Arabs, and that's why you see this appearance. That's why you see that mix, and it's why even though they took over Spain, you won't see Negroid admix in Spaniards because, of course, they're not Negroes. Look how pale these people are. Yeah, and then he's sitting on a king on his thing, and pale, 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 pale. So this is your Moors right here. And I think that's enough. That's enough to just show you that that's a desperate lie on trying to say you were Moors too. So let's unmute this to hear him lie again.
That part of North Africa, Mauritania. The word Moros in Greek and Latin means black strictly, and Mauritania meaning black people country. So even by many historical...
No, it doesn't. It means the Moors. And into the Spaniards and the English, a moor is a bog or an area that's kind of a swamp type situation, like in the Moors and out of the Baskervilles and everything else. But Moors and Mauritania is where they got the name. They didn't name it off of what one people that sounds similar to that says black. No, Morocco, Mauritania. We're just going to call them the Moors. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't mean Negroids, as you just saw.
Testimonies. North Africa was indeed originally black.
No, it wasn't.
The Romans also described the presence of dark-skinned, scarred, and painted faces wearing braids. There were also migrations of Ethiopians into Tunisia. The Romans called these peoples the Barbari due to their so-called savage ways.
And they were Caucasians too at that time, and that shows you where those Ethiopians went. And then some of them that didn't leave got taken over by a black population and admixed into them. And it's about 50-50 or 60-40, 60 black. Well documented. Well documented.
But when the Arabs entered North Africa, they changed the word from Barbary to Berber, regardless of color or race.
No, they didn't change the word. That's their word for it. There's a thing in linguistics where these people will have an oo and those people have an a, and it's really the same. And whenever they try to name it, this is a loan word. So they already had the name, and it was a loan word situation trying to rechange barber of the Greeks to Berber. So it's not even an Arabic language or a word. But so what is that? Lie number 34. Let's
Also want to
continue.
note that the term Berber has also been frowned upon as an offensive term because it links to the word barbarian. So
Right.
it's
And we just showed you the Berbers and the Amazigh that are in that same thing in the Miss Amazigh contest and so on, and it doesn't have anything to do with the people that he's showing
quite
here.
evident that the original inhabitants of North Africa were indeed black.
So it's quite evident that the original inhabitants of North Africa were always Caucasians all the way through the Horn of Africa and even in the Green Sahara, and Negroids came much, much later and didn't have anything to do with civilization, the Bible, Egypt, or really anything else in the world.
This was intercontinental migration from different parts of Africa. Due to many wars and invasions, many of the original black North Africans were forced south. This is why you will generally find darker skinned North Africans at the southern regions of all North African countries. You'll also
No, the reason you'll find more blacks at the southern region is that you can actually see where blacks are only in sub-Saharan Africa, and as they migrate through and into, they're lighter and lighter and lighter, and then a bunch of Caucasians that were there. And they're kind of getting pushed out of North Africa because a lot of these come in with the same attitude that a lot of different blacks do and everything, and their culture and their ability to control themselves. They don't have the same culture, but they've tried desperately to adopt it, just like black Americans are trying to really be like white people now and have a Christian white God that are there and worship him. No, there's no witchcraft voodoo crap going on, really. So let's continue.
find tribes that originated in North Africa and parts of West Africa and East Africa. For example, the original Egyptians or the Nilotic people, who were indeed black, migrated south out of Egypt.
No, you lying Negro. The Nilotic people, Nilotic is a different language. Negroids had Nilotic language, and the Caucasian Egyptians said that it was gibberish. They speak Afro-Asiatic language. What's Afro-Asiatic? It's Caucasian African language and Asian language that are hooked together, and that people that are in linguistics know damn well they connect together, and it doesn't connect to Negroids at all. But worse than that, Caucasian Egyptians. Let's see if I can show you that here real quick. Well, hell, I've got a page pulled up. Whites built the first thing. Here's blue-eyed Egyptians. So let's see what shows up with this. So from the very first dynasties, you can see these early Egyptian statues that are here. And they're indeed, this is a 5th dynasty. And indeed, those blue eyes that are there, and they're made out of crystal, and they follow you around the room. And some of them have them where they're crystal blue eyes that change gray when they, whenever you follow you around the room. Here is Hor-Aha, 12th dynasty, and he has the blue eyes in his statue too. Here's a famous statue of Mitri, and he also has those haunting blue eyes that shows you you're a liar about Egypt, and blacks are pathetic liars, showing you they actually don't have any culture that attaches to Caucasians until Caucasians brought it to them. There are more like, oh, this blue-eyed lady that's here, this is Nofret. Her husband Rahotep also has blue eyes, just as she does. And if you think that, oh, something happened and they took out the whites, no, the earliest statues of Nakata pre-dynastic show blue eyes inset on them on a very Caucasian face. And blacks don't have any of these effects that are off of them. But sure enough, there are their Caucasian Egyptians. There's just one thing. There's Rahotep right there. And Nofret. Hey, this is from my video right there that's showing this point of view. Here's other mummies too that have blonde hair with them. Oh, they stay with their skin's black. Bob Breyer took a pale Caucasian and made a mummy out of him, a medical cadaver, and made a mummy out of him, and he turned dark as beef jerky, and that's why they look like that. Then they shellacked them with things. But this guy looks like Abraham Lincoln. These are actually Caucasians here, and Ramses himself has that reddish orange hair. And they say, well, hell, he had to be over 90 years old. I believe 92 years old whenever he died. So he must have had gray hair, and they dyed it back with henna. And they said, yes. So they pulled a couple of them out, look them under a microscope, and they go, yeah, but he used to be a redhead. And of course, it's Caucasian hair on every single one of them. Here's another picture Well, it's not even big enough, but other pictures that show all these blue-eyed statues that are all up here, and all these mummies with red and blonde hair that are to them. Not even a black-haired, red and blonde hair. Of course, the black-haired ones have Caucasian hair too. It's just black, just like my brother does. But he has blue eyes and so on. Did every Egyptian have blue eyes? No, I doubt that they did. When you breed blue-eyed people together, you don't get them. But the eye of Nefertiti that black people threw a big fit about is a blue eye. She's missing her other one, but there's a blue eye too. And when they did a reconstruction of her, oh my God, they threw a fit. And they always throw a fit if they ever do a show about Egypt and don't show any black people. And people try to pretty much laugh them off. You know, it's disgusting for West Africans to turn around and go, West Africans were East African Caucasians. How disgusting can you be? So let's continue. That's enough of that. I could go deeply into all the genetics and the genetics of them and things and have lots of videos on it, but it doesn't need to. It's just one simple point, and these people aren't related to what we just talked about. Thank you.
Their descendants can be found in the Nubian Valley, Sudan, Ethiopia, Uganda, Somalia, and many more.
No, they can't. But this person right here, which they say Ramses is closer related to a Berber of North Africa, and here's one right here, and he's actually closer related to that. This is more of what those Egyptian ladies look like, and of course it shows them as being pale. You can look it up. Look at the thing. They will you show these men walking around dark. Anytime they show the priest or the females, they're light. How do you get a female that can get as light as this girl right here, and then a male that's as dark as that right there, and say that's Negro somehow? Yeah, Diop tried to pull that off. In fact, there's this whole paper about it where they were debunking him right after it happened, right after he did the UNESCO series thing, and they did it right after, where they were like, he won't admit that the red ones are not black people. He says they're black people, and then he discounts the Nubians and don't want to talk about them.
Whereas the North Africans of Western Eurasian descent were mainly found by the coast. These different ethnic and racial groups within North Africa intermixed and shared their tribal cultures. In some cases, they became one, but in some cases, the Eurasian North Africans took over the original North Africans' identity and culture.
No, now some black people have come in and took over the original identity and culture of endemic Caucasian North Africans that have been there since recorded time and before. In fact, into the last ice age. Stop lying.
Oh yes, some North Africans are white, some are black, and some are multi-generationally mixed.
Now they are, but in elder times they were not. And easily people can see the migration of Negroids up through Africa and trying to get in any other nation but Africa. And this is what kind of happened early before.
Culturally, they have Arabic, Islamic, and Amazigh group roots, as well as many other cultures. And other than looking at a particular North African and saying, because you're dark-skinned, you're one of the originals, or because you're very fair or you look European, your ancestors may have migrated from Western Eurasia.
The truth would be that if you're a black, you migrated recently to it, and if you're Caucasian in North Africa, you're part of the people that used to be there, or other Caucasians that migrated in Africa and back migrated, or even later, but sure as hell, they weren't Negroids, as he even mentioned twice, but he's now keeps trying to throw it in there, and he tried to put the Egyptians
The
in the
best way to
Moors.
know would be if they took DNA tests. That would tell them exactly where they started from. So
DNA tests for West Africans show high West African content and a little bit of Eurasian thing. What's that? That's that white admix. You're not white. No, and you never were.
as I said, if their DNA results say North African, this is a distinction that has been made for people whose ancestors migrated from Western Eurasia into North Africa.
No, it's from all the endemic North African Caucasians that are there, and they can see the integration of it, but it's not exactly the same as Europe, so they can tell the difference very easily. So stupid of you to just open right up to that right there, but they can tell it's North African Caucasians, it's this. And if you're a black person there, they're going to show you that sub-Saharan admix, and it proves that this guy's a liar.
Not necessarily original peoples. So the question I want to pose to you guys in the comment section is, in your opinion, are the white or Caucasian North Africans, bearing in mind they migrated from Western Eurasia, are they...
So I'm going to ask you down in the contents if you think that the original Africans of North Africa, which was named by and after a Caucasian, were actually Caucasians, or if they were sub-Saharan Negroes. And you can even add to it on the fact of if you think that they showed up much later, like everyone knows they did in genetics shows, or if it's somehow weird, wicked twist, and again, Whitey Badman stole their stuff that they never had. They sit around and whine about things being taken away from them whenever they never had anything. Disgusting.
Indigenous to North Africa. Can they claim Africa as indigenous peoples even though they migrated from outside of Africa over 12,000 years ago?
Can blacks consider themselves North Africans even though they just even recently, not 12,000 years ago, but just recently migrated up out of sub-Saharan Africa? Huh? And Senegal and different places. And oh, by the way, the Senegalese are different than the guys that are in Congo and Ghana and things like this. There's no unity to black people whatsoever.
Just like the Mongoloid Native Americans migrated from outside of America from Asia.
And before they did, there were actually Proto-Indo-Europeans that came into the Americas too. And so that makes the strange complaint that whenever the Spaniards showed up in South America, the Aztecs and stuff, and they thought that he was the god that returned to him because he was fair-skinned and light-haired, blonde, blue-eyed, and they said that's what their god was. And then he mentions that the nobles there are all pale, but the workers are tanned looking, they're red, but the other ones, and he talks about seeing a girl, blonde hair and blue eyes with a baby, and he asked the nobles about it, and they said she was one of the last of the children of the gods. So that shows you that there was influx back in there. And then, of course, we can see the Wari people in their mummies. And they have red hair and blonde hair and stuff into them along with them. And their hair, whenever they test it, is, of course, a Caucasian type of hair. And it shows you that there is another influx of early Caucasians that have even come to the Americas. But Negroids never migrated around. See, that exploring the world thing is the kind of Caucasian thing to do. And the stay in one place, but then later try to claim all the crap is what a black person is doing.
Please bear in mind, this is a basic breakdown to get you started in doing your own research. But I suggest you check out any books by Cheikh Anta Diop. It'll help.
I suggest you don't ever read a book by Cheikh Anta Diop unless you have possibly read his debunks on that first. So whenever you go into his book, you'll realize how he's lying and where he's putting it at. There have been people that literally pick it apart sentence by sentence.
You a lot in your journey. Anyway, peace, love, and coconut oil.
Anyway, admixed black, Caucasian. What? But doesn't she look like that Berber girl? Isn't that amazing? The Amazi. Aren't they amazing? Those amazing Caucasians. Hey, I heard they can fly now and even go to the moon and space. They led mankind, brought primitive people out of their primitive existence into a modern world, and now those people are jealous. They hate the people that helped them out, hate the people that freed them from Jewish slavery laws, and now blame them for every shortcoming they have, at least in America. In Africa, they may have a different idea where they realize that they weren't, but in America, oh, they're jealous of everything. It's because they're around people that are so advanced, and they weren't, that they covet. And it's kind of disgusting. And by kinda, I mean wow. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. He's done, and I'm done too. And enjoy. Like, share, and subscribe. And comment down there in the comments. And go back to that first one too. Peace.